Artists on the Map is a project dedicated to uncover and amplify the voices of contemporary artists all over the world. Today, our guest for Artists on the Map is Antonella Quacchia, an Italian artist that is trying to write multiple truths with her work. Welcome, Antonella.
Hello, I'm Antonella Quacchia, and today I would like to describe a little bit my work. I have done different series which are quite different from one another, but they are connected by a process of transforming my personal story, which was started as a story marked by separation, abandonment, movement, migration, into a story of abundance, openness, possibility. And this process began really not by chance, but with a conscious move from France, from where I was living in Voltaire, to Vienna. And this was really a radical life change, one that I choose, marked by the end of my professional life in the field of informatics and the beginning of my professional artistic career in a real professional way. It was also marked by a conscious chosen distancing from my family and from the friendships which I built over 40 years by living in Geneva region and the surroundings. And it was in this context that the first series, which I call Signs and Symbols, were born. In this series, I gathered fragments of my life and movement, representing them with color shapes that follows one another, chase each other, converse, and form like cosmic clusters within the work. These elementary colored forms in terms of circles, ovals, squares, were at first an attempt to look at reality very closely, which is something that influenced by my work experience at CERN. It was like diving into the essential components of matter. But the transformation of that, however, occurred by taking a distance, as if I could position myself in the cosmos and observe reality from very, very far away, discovering that everything is in fact reduced to simple shapes and colors. And in fact, what enables the transformation is movement. And it is ultimately the guiding thread of all my life. From my first displacements from Friuli, where I was born, to Brazil, which was experienced in the beginning as a traumatic tear from the world that I knew, to the move then desired and sought, this last move from Geneva to the region of Vienna. Later emerged this other series, which I call Floating Thoughts, in 2021, following a serious health issue in my family that brought me face to face with the question of life and death. The division and the dualities are represented through a contrast between light and dark, between illuminations and shadows, which is like a metaphor of life and death. In the following series created in 2022, which I called Our Planet, I addressed the theme of division and borders by literally dividing the canvas into two parts with an horizontal line, which is placed in the canvas according to the golden ratio. And the lower part corresponds to the smaller section of the golden ratio, is dynamic and turbulent, while the upper part is more expansive and is rendered in a single unified tone over a textured background. And for me, that symbolizes the possibility of transformation towards calm and abundance. This horizontal line, initially conceived as a rigid, imposed border, transformed into an horizon. The horizon is a line where we all move towards, but it's a moving line that can never be reached. and there is always something beyond. It's unknown, a new possibility. So the border opens and takes a different color and becomes like a bridge. And in 2023, my encounter with the epoxy resin marked another big step in this transformation, which gave rise to the series which are called Serendipity. Because resin is a material that really transforms from liquid to solid through a process that takes several hours, during which the various layers interact in ways that cannot be fully controlled by me. So for me, working with this material is a metaphor for the fact that transformation requires accepting what life presents us. So it is like an act of surrender to what cannot be fully controlled. And by adopting an attitude of curiosity and wonder. In my childhood, the feeling of separation, abandonment was caused by deep trauma, which I was able to overcome only through an attitude of surrender to the gift of life. And finally, the most recent series, where I started creating three small three-dimensional objects. This series is called Stories. It's really the synthesis of all this previous path and a bridge towards this new artistic expression. The series was born during the period when I lived in Prague, so in the years 23 and 24. And where I often wandered through flea markets, and there I found old Bohemian trays made of cut crystal, objects that connect me to my family history, because in particular to my paternal lineage through my great-great-grandmother, Julia Trieb, who emigrated from Prague to Friuli with her family. And funnily enough, Julia is also the name of my paternal grandmother and is my second name, which in fact was removed when I was adopted. So these Bohemian trays became the symbol of the family I lost when my surname changed, but which I transformed into the abundance of having, in fact, two families. And I used these trays as a stage on which to set stories of animals. Using this antique figurines found in the markets, these animals whose habitats are threatened and who therefore have no place where to live. And here the narrative is not only a transposition of my personal story, but in fact it spans into a broader dimension. And it is my commitment to give voice to those who cannot express their suffering, to express that big, loud no that as a child I could not say.
So, Antonella, you were born in Gorizia. You often say it was a coincidence, but perhaps it wasn't. How did Gorizia become like a symbol for you? Could you talk a bit about the lesser known wall there and how it became to like a statement in your work now?
I said I was born as a coincidence in Gorizia because in fact, due to some circumstances, my mother found herself in Gorizia in the house of her parents, and gave birth to me there. And when I was born in Gorizia, Gorizia in fact had a wall. And it was like a smaller version of the Berlin Wall. It was created in 1947 after the Treaty of Paris, where the Allies sort of draw the border between Italy and the Yugoslavia. And that wall, in fact, was guarded. And my grandparents were living very close to it. One could hear shooting during the night when people were trying to cross that border. And so it was really like a wound a big wound because that border was set on by people just drawing it on a map, and it cut parts of the town. It cut through houses, and it cut in a particular place. It cut out the station of Gorizia, which was called La Transalpina, which remained in Yugoslavia, and the rest of the square remain in Italy. So for me, this is really the symbol of how the law can enforce on top of people separations, and it impacts really deeply the lives of people. Have to submit themselves to that new reality, and that is really a little bit more like my own experience, because when I was a child, I was taken away from my family, brought to Brazil, and this was certainly something that the adults around me found as the best solution to the problems which were in my family. But it is from the point of view of a child who has to be taken away from everything that is known. And as I was saying before, that series of that no, that I could not say, no, I don't want to. No, I don't want to be taken away from my family. No, I don't want to be taken to the other side of the world. The wall of Gorizia really symbolizes that.